I don't know whether the challenges that you've been through, but all I know is that each and every one of us faces challenges at some point in our own life. And for each and every one of us, the levels of the challenges that we face are different. And today we are going to talk about navigating challenges with confidence. This is Now Tell Us. I'm your host, Anthony Morore. At Now Tell Us, we have guests come and tell us stories, they come and inspire us, they come and educate us on a subject. And always we have great guests who come and join us here. And this show is for you. We thank you for being here. You also make it great. So, as we are going to meet our guest today, I would request you to please share this episode with all your friends. If you have a question, ask. If you have anything to say about the podcast or this episode in particular, we thank you in advance because we love feedback. And now I won't take one more minute because Sophie Deslauriers, I tried to take some French, but then I was not so good. She's gonna teach me a little bit of French. I think that name comes from a French origin. So Sophie is going to be here with us shortly. Why don't you join me as we go and meet our guest today, Sophie, to tell us about navigating challenges with confidence. Here we go. Hello, Sophie.
Hi, good morning. How are you?
I'm good. How are you?
I'm great, thank you. Thank you for having me today. I'm excited for the opportunity.
Yeah, we are excited to have you here. And apologies, I almost bit my tongue trying to pronounce your name.
It's okay. It's Sophie Deslauriers. It does come from a French origin. You're right about that, but I'm not sure I'm going to teach you too much French today.
Yeah, Delor. Yeah, okay. I tried. I was being taught to say bonjour and au revoir, but that's the farthest I went with my
that,
French.
that's okay.
Yeah. So, where are you in the world?
I live in Toronto, Canada.
Okay,
And you?
that's good. I'm in Athens, Greece.
Oh, nice.
Yeah. So, it's with technology that we get to connect from different parts of the world, and it's such a great thing to have you here today.
Thank you.
Yes. What, if we may start there, is it that you do in life?
I would be considered a mentor, somebody who helps. I specifically work with women and I help them navigate challenges in their life, up level their leadership, develop their resilience. I help them heal from heartbreak, step into the woman that they were meant to be, step into the next level version of themselves, upgrade their mindset, upgrade their behaviors, help them with their alignment, like that.
That's cool. And how did you get started on this?
I started actually in sales and leadership. I had a very big career in the corporate world. I worked with large Fortune 500 companies across North America, training and developing their sales teams and their sales leadership teams, mostly in the areas of communication, presentation, negotiation, and leadership. And then I took some time off. I got sick. I took some time off. Or fortunately, depends how you look at it. I got a divorce after 18 years. I was diagnosed with breast cancer. I refused treatment to get pregnant. I had repartnered at the time, and we were blessed with a baby boy 8 months after my lumpectomy. And then the pandemic hit. And then once the pandemic was over, I was considering what to do to go back to work. And I really wanted to do something that had more meaning and more purpose, and that would be more fulfilling for me. I wanted to connect deeper with people and have more intimate conversations about real aspects of life, not just about business and sales. And so when I thought about who was the individual that I wanted to serve, I really wanted to serve somebody going through heartbreak, because when I went through heartbreak, I just didn't feel like there was somebody there to really support me through it. And I have this whole concept that the best way to get through heartbreak or to navigate challenge is one foot in trust and one foot in leadership. And so, really help individuals build their sense of trust while going into the world of the unknown. I help them up-level their leadership so that they focus on their own growth and they stop ruminating about the past. I help them create a vision for themselves so it really compels them to move forward so that they claim the life that they were meant for. And I help them really step into the next iteration of themselves. So, yeah, that's kind of like the trajectory of my story and how I got here.
Yeah, and you actually mentioned quite a bit in there, and I'll maybe you'll be interested to go bit by bit on some of the things that you
Sure.
mentioned. Yeah,
Yeah, we can
because
unpack it.
there are several challenges that I understand that you've been through, and maybe some of the listeners or the viewers could be going through some of them, and so let's first maybe go to the aspect of where you started uh, in your career, and then at some point you decided to go into business, and then what was there is this was not your first business, I want to guess. So how was
No,
it?
I
Yeah.
had my first business was a college pro painting franchise when I was in university.
Mm-hmm.
I and then I had another business. I opened a spa when I was done university. Unfortunately, I went bankrupt from that spa after 3 years of being in that business. We started that business with a partner. We had zero clients and we built it to $50,000 a month within 6 months. But then, unfortunately, with the biggest growth years behind us and a very large um, small business loan and many expenses, we were not able to be profitable. And so we decided to close those doors. So, yeah, no, this is not my first business. I've been in the coaching industry now for 20 years. Mostly, I spent it in the area of sales and leadership. And just in the last 8 months, I've recently chosen to make a pivot with my focus, and I'm focusing on something different now.
Hmm. Yeah, so you open a business and you file for bankruptcy after you've seen that things are not working out. At what that I guess that was when you were still in your first marriage before you broke up.
That's correct. Yeah.
Yeah, and how was it? What was the biggest challenge apart from the bankruptcy that you filed for? What was the biggest challenge that you experienced in growing your business at that point?
For that business, the biggest challenge was bringing in new people. We were in a pretty affluent neighborhood, and one of the things with women, it was an anti-aging spa. So one of the things with women is they don't necessarily like to tell you their anti-aging secrets. And so if there's no word on the street, no word of mouth, people aren't promoting it, it
Mm-hmm.
makes it hard to generate new business. And being in anti-aging, women want to keep it as a secret. And so I found that to be a big challenge, is to constantly be bringing in new people and like that. Yeah.
Yeah,
It
yeah.
was easier in the beginning than it was like 3 years in. It was getting harder.
Oh, and that's an interesting thing to hear, because I always hear people say that it was hard in the beginning, and then as we got to know the ins and outs of the business, then it started to get easier and easier. So,
Well, the ins and out of the business wasn't what was hard for me because I already knew that I'd already worked at a spa, I'd already worked at a gym. I was really good in sales. It was really, we took on a bit too much. We took on a big space. We didn't have any clients when we started. Most people, they go work at a spa, they gain a clientele, and then they take their clientele with them. We started from scratch. We had nothing, and we had a very large location, a very large small business loan, big expenses, and it was challenging to cover off the expenses, specifically in the slow times. And it's the biggest challenge was being profitable, you
mm,
know?
okay.
Hmm.
And then at some point you had a divorce.
That's correct.
Could
About
you
five
be,
years ago.
yeah, could you be willing, if you are willing, to share with us what led to this? If not, you just let us know that you went through a divorce, and then that's it.
Well, I was married very young. I was like 23 or 24 when I got married. I was married for 18 years, and it's a real thing where people just grow apart. We wanted different things in life.
Hmm.
We built a big life together, and then we just wanted different things. And so we had to make a conscious choice, and we consciously uncoupled. I repartnered, and what I really wanted was to have a child. I was like 42, 43 when the divorce was happening, and I didn't have a lot of time to make choices. And somebody came into my life that I fell in love with and that I wanted to go for that option with, and so I did. So yeah, we had different values as we grew older. We had different wants, different needs, different desires, a different future. And so we made choices that aligned for each other, and that's the thing, right? Like sometimes you just have to choose yourself to get the life that you really want, and sometimes that means it's not with the person that you started out with, and
Mm,
that's what makes it hard.
yeah. Yeah, it's hard choices. Sometimes you've just got to come to meet with them and make your decisions and yeah, choose something. So you got started on this, and then what came first? I mean, before you had a divorce, you had cancer, or you had cancer after the divorce.
Oh no, so it was during all at the same time. So we split, and then I don't know, maybe 8 or 9 months later, while I was going through the divorce, I was diagnosed with stage 1 breast cancer. I had a lumpectomy. I refused treatment to get pregnant. Then my divorce completed. Once everything was over, then I tried to have a baby and I got pregnant first try.
And, you mentioned about refusing treatment, uh, and we previously talked about decisions. That must have been a big decision for you to make, to say that I don't want any treatment.
Yeah, it was a very challenging decision, especially, when doctors have such authority over your health. And the word cancer is pretty debilitating and it's very scary to hear that word. But I just didn't want to try anything else in my life. I had already lived a big life. Um, I wanted the opportunity to try to be a mother. I was 42, 43 years old. I knew that if I did radiation treatments and 2 years of tamoxifen, I would have been 44. I knew that I was already considered a geriatric mom because of my age and the way the eggs deteriorate at a certain point in time in life. And I was willing to take that risk. I wanted to take that chance. I wasn't willing to live with the regret of not trying, but I was okay that if I didn't have a child, but I wasn't willing to live with the regret of it.
You didn't want to live with the regret of not having a child.
Not trying. If the universe didn't bless me with one, I would have been okay with that. But to have not tried wouldn't have been okay.
Oh, to have not tried. This goes to out there to someone who may not have tried, and you may live to regret at some point. Then
Yeah,
comes the time that you have just got to make that hard decision
that's
and
true.
just try, just go for it.
Yes.
Question: we're talking about navigating challenges with confidence, and the question is, where did you get the confidence to just refuse the treatment because you wanted to try for a child? What
Well,
inspired me? What was the, I mean, what inspired? What was the push? What was the inspiration?
well, I just think by that point in time in my life, I'd done so much personal growth and so much personal development work. I was somebody who was already teaching leadership and communication, and at the
Hmm.
same time, I wasn't necessarily living in my full truth. I denied the fact that I wanted a child for a very long time, and I just had to really make some very serious choices. And like when I got diagnosed with cancer, I had to really look at what my life was about and what I wanted, and I had to really get honest with myself about what I wanted to try for. And I honestly believed that um, I was going to be okay without treatment. They wanted me to do 25 radiation treatments to reduce the chance of the cancer coming back by 15%. So, because I was fairly young, 42 is considered fairly young because a woman's lifespan is about 80. I still had another 40 years where the cancer could come back. They wanted to be confident that it wouldn't come back. And so, they wanted to give me radiation treatments. And so, I had a 30% chance the cancer would come back, and the radiation treatments was going to reduce that by 15%. And I just didn't think that going through that kind of treatment and doing 2 years of tamoxifen for only a 15% chance that it doesn't come back was really worth the impact that it had on my body. And I started to do a lot of research about where cancer comes from, and I started to understand that there's emotional implications for why cancer comes about, and that has a lot to do with anxiety and fear and guilt and shame. So I started to do more research and digging into where was my anxiety coming from, my resentments, my judgments, my anger, my guilt. And then I just started to renegotiate all the major relationships in my life so that I could stop operating from a place of guilt and start being more honest and truthful with my feelings, and not have to feel responsible for the other person's feelings, and really just be in those straight, direct conversations. So I believed that if I could change and alter my dynamic within those relationships, my communication styles, and really just stand and be more honest about what I really wanted, that would make a difference in my health. And so I chose to go that way rather than the treatment wise. And the doctors weren't very supportive, though, to be honest with you. They didn't take any of that into account for whether or not it would reduce the chance of it coming back. But I had this internal belief, and I trusted that. And I think that, in a society, we're conditioned by fear. And I think that doctors have this like godlike presence. And I think too many of us take what the doctor says as absolute truth, and it's actually not absolute truth. And we as humans do have a say. And I do believe in the relationship of co-creating with the universe and setting an intention and aligning to that intention. And so I started to gain the courage. I mean, it was a pivotal point in time in my life to either start to believe in myself more, trust myself more, trust my intuition, speak my truth, or just kind of follow the grain, like, whatever. And I just chose not to do that. I would
Yeah.
have rather perished than to have moved forward. I knew the risk of having a baby when I knew the risk of getting cancer back when I got pregnant. The doctor was very clear with me that there might be some serious implications, and I wanted to take that risk anyways.
Something important, something interesting that you mentioned there is about the causes of cancer and then the things that we treat. I want to imagine that in many instances in life, we are treating the symptoms and we ignore the source, we ignore the real causes of whatever it is that we are treating. And so it's good that you went into research. You just don't take the word of those people who are experts, or so to say. You go into research as much, and I don't know the extent of the research that you did, but then I'm not basing this on only your cancer. I'm imagining of many other things that we don't have to take the word of others as the final word. We can try to look at the source of what it is that we are trying to treat
Right.
and deal with the source.
Right. And I really believe that your emotions have a lot to do with your overall health, and that has a lot to do with how secure you felt as a child, how much trauma you experienced as a child, how much healing you've done as a person, how much wounding you still have. And I had already been in personal development since I was about 23 years old, so I'd already done about 20 years of work. So I feel like I had a really good foundation to step and to lean on in order to continue my own growth. And I feel like this was a pivotal moment for me to continue my own growth as a human, because I believe that we're constantly growing and evolving over time. And I think one of the lessons for me was to, be able to communicate my boundaries more and hold them. I wasn't somebody who upheld my boundaries very well. And so that was not good for my overall health, because when I'm selling out on myself, then there becomes a self-hatred, a self-blame, a resentment, a judgment towards myself, and that energy in the body, I think, really does alter your DNA and manifest more abnormal cells, which then develop into cancerous cells. And so if you're wanting things to go away and you're making promises to yourself and then you're selling out on your promises to yourself, that's a very self-harming thing to do. And I don't think we get talked to enough about that. I don't think that we're talking about that nearly enough in life. You can be super successful and still have this charge against yourself. This has nothing to do with success, and how you show up in business is actually not necessarily how you show up in your personal life. And still this way of being, it leaks into every area of life. And I think that it's important that people understand that there is a very physical implication and consequence of not living in your truth, communicating your truth, upholding your boundaries, communicating your non-negotiables, understanding what your fears are, understanding what your limiting beliefs are, understanding what your self-sabotaging patterns are, and really growing through that. There is a physical implication it has, and that's why I believe more and more women are getting breast cancer. I mean, it's a real issue, and I think it's being poorly diagnosed. I don't think it's cancer is just cancer. I think that there is a lot more emotional healing that needs to go along with the treatment protocol. And I feel like that piece in traditional medicine gets ignored or gets bypassed. I think that we have to be our own health advocate and understand that you can't just cut something out all the time or take a pill or do some form of therapy for it systemically to be gone. Yes, you could probably eradicate it, but if you don't alter or shift something in how you perceive yourself and how you perceive life, the chances of it coming back or manifesting into something different are high, in my opinion.
Mm. Yeah, many more people need to hear this and to have an idea of how to go to navigate through these challenges that we are talking about. And we thank each and every one of us who is tuned in. Thank you, Mishka, for tuning in. And Mishka says, absolutely, this is an extraordinary share. I've suffered with this for years. And yes, you just said it, self sabotaging. It's a big issue.
Yeah, and it's usually hidden from our view, and it occurs in our communication, and it really takes being with somebody else to really understand what your self-sabotaging behavior is, because it is in the blind spot. It's the ego mind that is designed to keep you safe and feeling comfortable and keeping you in your comfort zone. And so we do things that are familiar. We be with people that are familiar to us based on our childhood. And if we don't have the leadership and the growth and the personal development and the emotional intelligence to handle that, then it's something that just perpetuates through our whole life. And it's just patterns that we keep repeating. And some of us are lucky and we never get sick. It's not all of us are. And I do think as a general population, we are getting more and more sick because of, well, there's so much societal pressure and so many different things. I think it has a lot to do with our conditioning, specifically for women, this good girl conditioning, putting other people's needs first, not asking for help, not looking weak, not being vulnerable. It's having us abandon ourselves to people please so that we be liked, so that we don't be rejected, so that we don't be abandoned. And that energetic dynamic, just in and of itself, I think is very damaging for us as human beings. And then that creates anxiety, and anxiety is linked to inflammation, and inflammation is then linked to many autoimmune disorders like rheumatoid arthritis, lupus, fibromyalgia, endometriosis, and also cancers. So I do think there's a fundamental need for more of us to talk about how societal conditioning for both men and women, because I don't think men are being conditioned very well either. Don't feel your feelings, don't look weak, don't cry. I mean, how are we supposed to have emotional intimacy and connection with each other when the man is not supposed to share his feelings or be vulnerable or look weak in any way, and the woman is not supposed to express her needs, or she's supposed to put everybody else's needs first? Like, we're not conditioned to support each other. And it's a major breakdown, I believe, in marriages and in relationships. And I feel like humans in general, men and women, are both being isolated, and this loneliness that we feel, this disconnect that we feel, is um, like one of the more significant issues that we're dealing with in life. And then we have these coping mechanisms that are like maladaptive coping mechanisms. We drink, or we do drugs, or we shop, or we're promiscuous, or whatever it is that we're doing to try to like cope with this isolation, or we're trying to fill this void with materialistic things or external validation. It's robbing us of the opportunity to build our relationship with ourselves and to give ourselves love and to be connected. And then it's robbing us the opportunity to do that with another human. And so I do feel like it's a way that humans are controlled, and it creates fear, and it gets transferred down from generation to generation. So it's something that just perpetuates. So some of us, we do the work and we become the pattern breaker or the cycle breaker, and we start to learn more emotional intelligence and leadership and self-love. We start to repair the relationship with ourselves. We start to overcome our fears. We step outside of our comfort zone. We start to be more vulnerable. We bring in more love, and that starts the healing process, and that emanates outwards. But that takes courage, a lot of courage, and
Yeah.
support. It also takes support, and
Mm.
I don't feel like there's enough people knowing how to ask for that kind of support, or that kind of support even being offered.
Mm. Now, you've actually mentioned quite a bit there on how to deal with or navigate challenges with confidence. And since we are almost nearing the end of this episode, maybe you can give us a summary of how to move around, how to navigate through the challenge.
Well, yeah, so I think that in every challenge, there's an opportunity, and it's an opportunity to grow your leadership. It's an opportunity to get your dreams fulfilled in a different way. It's an opportunity to connect with yourself. And so I think, to really be able to navigate a challenge, you have to be solid with yourself. And so it's about your own self esteem, your own self worth, your own self respect, your own self love, your own connection with yourself. It's about trusting your intuition. It's about having this like inner knowing. And so it's like, how do you develop that? Well, one of the tips that I could give you is like, you want to make a small promise to yourself and keep it, because many of us make promises to ourselves and then we don't keep it. And that erodes our self trust, which erodes our self confidence, which then makes us very shaky and wobbly in moving forward. So if for example, you are somebody who doesn't drink any water and you promise yourself you're going to drink, start small, 1 glass of water a day, keep that promise. And then maybe next week it's 2 glasses of water a day, but you keep the promises so you can start to repair the trust bond with yourself. And then you can start making bigger and bigger promises so that you can start to get outside of your comfort zone, so that you can start to get what you want to get out of life. But that's how it starts. It starts with rebuilding the trust with yourself. It also starts, another tip I would say is also, it's really important to understand the inner child within. Most of us, we don't get out of childhood unscathed, regardless of how great our parents are. They do the best that they can, but we've developed some wounds, and as humans we have common wounds, the wound of being rejected, the wound of being abandoned. And so it's about understanding what your triggers are, so that you know how to manage your emotions when you get triggered, so that you don't lead your life from this wounded child's place. You can actually parent yourself, find the inner wisdom, your inner parent your wounded child, and show up as your full self rather than as your wounded child who's scared.
Mhm.
I think those two things are very important in being able to navigate life in general, and specifically being able to navigate a challenge with confidence.
Thank you for sharing that. We really appreciate. You mentioned about working with women, and I'm curious, and maybe someone who's listening there is wondering to herself, because we're talking about women, but also we've included men at some point. But how is it working with you?
How is it working with me?
Yes, what is it? I mean, how does one get to work with you in
Yeah,
your?
so the best place to find me is on my Instagram page at the
Uh,
Sophie Deslauriers. So at Sophie Sophie Deslauriers Lauriers. And I put out programs. You can join one of my group programs. You can join one of my one-on-one mentorship programs. And this is the sort of stuff that we talk about in almost everything that I do. And in any way that you work with me, you'll step into the next version of yourself, and you'll become more aware of who you are, what your needs are, what your wants are, what your desires are, what your beliefs are, what your vulnerabilities are. And we go to work on strengthening your relationship with yourself, and your leadership, your resilience, your emotional intelligence, so that you're somebody who can claim the life that you want, and know yourself as someone who goes out and gets it.
okay, thank you for that. So, your Instagram handle is the Sophie Delore.
Yeah, at the Sophie Deslauriers.
Okay, yeah, that gives us, that takes us there, and the link is in the description, so you can find that. If you want to connect with Sophie and find out about the rest of the things that she does, and get to work with her. So that's the handle of her Instagram. Sophie, we really appreciate you coming to this episode. It's been a big honor, and you've given us a few tips on how to navigate challenges with confidence. Thank you.
Thank you so much.
What would be your parting shot? That one thing that you'd like us never to forget.
Well, to trust your intuition and speak your truth always. And it's okay to disappoint people. Adults are able to be disappointed and handle their own feelings. It's not your job.
That's a good one. That's a good one.
Mm,
And thank you for sharing.
you're welcome.
Yes, so it's been an honor, and we also want to thank all your our viewers or listeners, even those who get to watch us or listen to us after we are through with this episode. We thank you for taking your time, and we hope and it's our belief that you're getting some value from what we share, and especially for this from this episode that we've shared with you with Sophie. This has been Now Tell Us, and I have been your host Anthony Morore, and together with our guest today, Sophie Deslauriers. Did I get that right?
Deslauriers.
Deslauriers.
Yeah, there you go.
I promise to get it right in future.
It's okay.
Deslauriers.
You're not the
Yeah.
only one.
So, on behalf of Sophie, we are saying thank you for being with us here. And until next time, it's bye for now.
Bye. Thank you so much.
Yeah, thank you too.